How we doing, man?
Good.
We tried to draft last year. It's all worked out.
Yeah.
You remember that, right?
Yeah, that's what I was about to tell you.
Someday we'll get a chance to talk about that.
So do the Browns really have a quarterback problem if 2 of their last 3 starters made the Pro Bowl? Yes. But shouts to Joe Flacco and Shedeur Sanders for being named to the NFL's All-Star equivalent as an alternate and replacement, respectively. Listen, we could do the easy thing, dunk on the litany of Cleveland signal callers, but it's legitimately worth celebrating. On the back end of an 18-year career, Flacco's getting the nod for the very first time. Shedeur's been one of the most polarizing QB1s in recent history, so I'm glad he's getting a little love too. Maybe, just maybe, this signifies the beginning of something good in Northeast Ohio.
All right, so Shedeur made the most of his starts of any Brown quarterback this season, but struggled with the accuracy issues more than Dillon Gabriel and Joe Flacco. 10 interceptions, just 8 combined from the others. However, Sanders went 3-4 as the starter, while Gabriel and Flacco went a combined 2-8. All right, Monken is going to have his work cut out
with Lamar Jackson and a run game that we saw in Baltimore that was able to not just utilize Derrick Henry, but we saw him with smaller running backs in the pass game and also in the run be able to create space.
Yeah, Marcus, on the defensive side, the defense has been a bright spot for the Browns. Now Jim Schwartz's future with the team is uncertain. How important is he to the identity and the success of this organization?
You speaking of Jim Schwartz importance? Boogie?
Yes.
Yeah, look, this one performance matters, right? It's been one of the better defenses. It's actually been the only sunshine in Cleveland for a long time. Have won games and kept them in games that they probably shouldn't have been in. I know Jim Schwartz's name was mentioned with potentially becoming the head coach as well. I think the relationship matters, right? And I know that this is probably going to be if he stays, it'll be, well, I could have been the head guy, but I think this is someone you would love to retain if possible, based on who he's worked with, how well they've done on that side of the unit. If they can't, they need to lean into a lot of, whoever the new defensive coordinator is, needs to lean into a lot of what they were already doing. There are obviously Myles Garrett is over there, the best defender in the NFL, but there's a lot of talent around Myles Garrett as well that we probably don't talk about enough because Myles Garrett just does so many phenomenal things on the field. But when you think about this Cleveland team, and that was my thing when Todd Monken got hired, is now it's head coaching. We know, look, Todd Monken can call plays offensively.
Yeah.
He has been very, very good at his job, even though I've had some problems with how he's called specific games. But overall, he's done a really good job. I think more now about Cleveland is his head coaching job and delegation and finding the right people to help this organization be better on the field.
I think delegation is important, but there's also just so much to clean up from a perception standpoint with the Cleveland Browns, the way that the young quarterbacks were handled. We've obviously heard Mr. Haslam speaking on behalf of what Andrew Berry and the coaching staffs did in the drafts. What he needs to do is make this as close-knit and tight-knit of an organization where everything is, like Mina said, all about what we do on the football field and create the right culture. Defensively, I felt like they had that, but as an entire unit, that's been lacking for the Cleveland Browns in the last couple of years.
Yeah, he said when he got the job, even he was talking about it this morning, that this was why he came back to the NFL. This was why he left Georgia, which was a really comfortable job for him. They were having a ton of success, but he wanted to be an NFL head coach, and this was the goal. This is an opportunity. I don't think he'll take it lightly, but yeah.
Boogie, you know Todd. Todd is a really good coach.
He is.
He's really relatable.
He's a great leader.
I don't think people know him beyond knowing Todd Monken and the success from an offensive coordinator. He's a relatable guy. Players love playing for him. Like there are great sentiments about him from players that have played for him. Like RC said, though, Cleveland is a juggernaut.
Different.
To try to get righted. And this is going to be a job that he's never been associated with in his life. So it's going to take a lot of work, but he has the right makings to get guys on the right track.
When you look at Todd Monken, he's a guy that the Cleveland Browns have familiarity with. He was an OC there. And you look at the issues that they've had over the years. They've always had an incredible defense. So from their thinking, if we're able to somehow keep Coach Schwartz intact, which has done incredible job on the defensive side of the ball, been one of the top defenses. Personnel is handled by the front office. We need a guy to stabilize the offense and command a room, right? And so when you look at Todd Monken's background in the NFL and places he's been an offensive coordinator and all the years that he's had in those locker rooms, you feel like you have a guy that can command the room and you can stabilize your offense. You can elevate your offense. You can develop your offense. These are the quarterbacks under Monken right here that you're seeing on the screen. And if this was a hire that was made a year ago after Lamar Jackson had back-to-back first-team All-Pro seasons, I feel like the sentiment would be a lot different. I think the Browns are centering in on that. This is a guy they requested early in the process. And so it does not surprise me that ultimately it was who they chose.
Look, this is one of those where every Browns fan was excited with Udinsky or Schillhouse. Give us something young, give us something fresh. They get Monken, but he does have a great history with quarterbacks. We look to the quarterback room. Is this a Shedeur Sanders hire in your eyes?
Oh, God, no. No, I would say this. If you're Todd Monken, it's the first and really only time that you're going to be a head coach. You're going to handpick your quarterback. You're going to want to go, and if this was the one opportunity that you get, and I don't know when that pick will be made or who, and if it's going to be a free agent or a draft pick, but this is the one shot you get. I'm sure Shedeur is going to factor into the conversation at some point. Ravens were entertaining drafting Shedeur last year. Was Todd Monken a person behind that? All of that. But I can't imagine that this is the first opportunity. You said he's 60? First opportunity that I get.
60 next week.
Okay, 60 next week. This is the first opportunity and likely the only opportunity you get. You're not just going to go all in on a fifth-round pick, at least going into his second year. Todd Monken's a really good coach. He spearheaded the best version of Lamar Jackson we've ever seen. We've seen some really good versions of Lamar Jackson, but the year 2 years ago was great. And for those who don't know, he was the offensive coordinator at Georgia when Georgia was winning their national championships. And I would say this. Kirby Smart in the college football playoff is 4-0 with Todd Monken as his offensive coordinator. He's 1-3 without him. There's other parts attached to that, but that's a fact, okay? So he's a good coach. Yeah. I do think it's safe and comfortable by the ownership and the decision. I also think it weakens your strength. Your strength was defense. Now you have a loss of defensive coordinator. You also have your best player, Myles Garrett, probably sitting there once again going, seriously? Again? We're going to do this all over again?
I'm going to look back to Adam because we're going to go back to the New York side of it here. So Todd Monken being the head coach in Cleveland over maybe 35-year-old Nate Schillhouse or Jim Schwartz.
I think it's less of a risk than you go with the very, very young guy, at least from that perspective.
Really haven't said anything disagreeable.
How can you sit there and say that, like, there's nothing about him as
a head coach that's exciting?
But that's every coach, though. Brian Daboll is a really good offensive coordinator. You didn't know nothing about him only as an offensive coordinator. He gets the head coach job for the Bills. Or for the Giants, first year he did well. I can just keep going on all these different coordinators. What about Brady? What's his name?
Joe Brady?
Yeah, Joe Brady. Whatever, no head coach. He was a good coordinator, and they made him a head coach.
Sure.
I can do this for every topic.
Here's the difference.
Tell me the
At
difference.
least when I think about Todd Monken, first off, I'm not going to lie. Sorry. I'm ageist as it pertains to NFL coaches. I'm ageist. I like my head coaches to be younger because I've seen younger coaches win. I've seen Mike McDonald's win. I've seen Mike Vrabel's there now. I've seen Sean McVay's. Outside of Andy Reid, who's maybe the greatest coach of all time, coaches that are currently going far are younger. So I am ageist. With all due respect, I'm ageist. Why am I ageist? Because I think that younger coaches are more relatable. I was in a locker room where Chip Kelly was the head coach. Chip Kelly was not very relatable. I was in a locker room where Tom Coughlin was the head coach during his latter years. Tom Coughlin was not very relatable. So I'm ageist. Todd Monken is a 59-year-old head coach, and outside of Andy Reid, who is an all-time great, the current coaches that are trying to run the league are younger. The older coaches, the Harbaughs and the Tomlins and all them, respectfully are getting moved on from their own organization. So just an old coach in general, Shady, just doesn't excite me. That's not a Monken thing.
I know, but you ain't say that. You just start talking about, like, because you said he did good as an offensive coordinator, but you're not as a head coach. Like Sean McVay, he jumped right into the head coaching job. You ain't know much about him.
Nobody was excited about that then.
I know, but what I'm saying, it worked out.
Correct.
So just because you might not know much about him, but like, you can't just say, like, it turns me all the way off.
Here's why.
Because it's so many. If I just keep thinking of all these, Ben Johnson, he was a great offensive coordinator, but how you know he's going to be a good head coach?
I don't, but let me push back. The old head coaches that have been hired lately, they've just failed miserably. Who's the DC for the Philadelphia Eagles? Vic Fangio. Got hired older. Failed miserably. Steve Wilkes ended up getting hired. Maybe it was for the Arizona Cardinals, interim for the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah.
And I don't even think Steve Wilkes was that old. failed miserably. When first-time coaches get hired older, they just don't succeed. So I'm just looking at like data. Now Shady says, I don't like data. I don't like that. I understand.
Yeah, I don't like no data.
But all I can do right now is assess data. I see older head coaches get hired for the first time, they don't succeed.
Okay, so I just want to make sure we're on the same page. So you ain't say that. So you adding that part in, like you want
that was the thought process of why I said there's nothing exciting as a head coach. That's my thought process.
Okay.
So then as I cook beyond that, my real point was like, I'm just not excited about Todd Monken.
But real quick, even if you're older, right, and you might not have the experience, but when you're younger, you don't have the experience either, though. Like the head coach for the Seahawks right now.
But to me, Shady, and because
he was
you and I lived
coordinator,
this,
he became a head coach.
I believe experience is one
experience.
thing. I believe relatability. I believe motivation are other things. I think a large part of why Chip lost the Eagles locker room, you had a different experience than me, so I won't speak to your experience, is relatability.
Yeah.
I don't think Chip as a mind was all that dumb. Yeah, I just don't think Chip could relate to nobody.
But to be honest,
So,
though,
like,
if we just being honest, like can these coaches really relate to us? Because we all come.
I think Mike Vrabel can. You know
Yeah,
what I'm
but
saying?
he played in the league.
But think about the coaches that are in the final four, final eight. I think Mike Vrabel can. I think Sean McVay can. I think Mike McDonald's 38-39. Kyle Shanahan.
But hold up.
Yep, talk to me.
They can relate because why? Because they're young. That don't matter because a lot of the players that play in the league, they are brothers, and some of them don't have nothing for real.
Yes.
But hold up. So now when you coach with these or working with these coaches because they're younger, you can't really understand my backstory.
But I don't even know if it's so much as backstory. I think a large part of it for me is like you're so tethered to your beliefs that you don't even want to relate to culture, anything about the culture, anything about these new age kids. And again, I just unfortunately saw it so much with Chip that I'm biased. I want a coach that maybe like Kyle Shanahan. Like you're younger, you could relate. Sean McVay and Stafford they boys, not even like coach, whatever. Like relate. Now Andy Reid is Andy Reid. He's the greatest of all time. So a lot of my take was encompassed in that. Todd Monken was a coach at Southern Miss. It's just not exciting. Yes. Did he win 2 chips with Georgia with Stanton Bennett? Yes. He also had the best rosters in football. Did he have good offenses with the Ravens? Yes. He also has a Hall of Famer in Lamar Jackson, a Hall of Famer in Derrick Henry. He also has phenomenal offenses.
And they did well.
And they did incredibly well. There's just nothing exciting to me about like, hell yeah, Todd Monken. I'm thrilled that he's here.
That's every coach.
No, I agree. I don't think there is